Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back. Right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay? So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now, let's get to the episode. Perfect. Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Sitting down with Linda Kokoros and Jay Baily. And you know what? They're not household names now, but they will be after this podcast. Hope Beyond the Badge. They are doing some amazing things, not just for our first responders, but for their families and everybody that's related. They've got a podcast, Hope Beyond the Badge. I was a guest. I was honored to be a guest not too long ago. And they're bringing awareness, inspiration, and conversation. They're bringing that all together for first responders. And what I love, and their families, right? Because that's kind of the thing that we've been leaving out of this thing of ours is our families. So we're going to sit down. We're going to talk a little bit about why they're doing what they're doing, how they got into this, and really where they're taking it. Because I can tell you, after spending some time with them, they're definitely going to add value to your life. So I'm going to shut up now. And without further ado, you guys help me in welcoming Linda and Jay to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Guys,
Hey,
great to see you again.
John, thank you so much for having myself and Jay on. We are so excited to talk with you today and have your listeners so to hear about what we're doing up here.
Yeah, no, I love it. And just, for the listener, we're out of Weymouth? Yeah,
We're
Weymouth.
in Weymouth, yeah.
Weymouth area. So, I'm a North Shore boy. I moved down to South Florida back in 90, 91. And it's just, people always say New York, but they're not. And listen, it's the Northeast. It's all the same nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we got to talking not too long ago, and you guys, like I said, were gracious enough to have me on your show, and we talked about my nonsense and my why in that road. And when we were talking, now I know, Linda, I know your story, and I'm going to talk about that. But I don't. So Jay was sitting back while I was talking, and there was some head nods going on, and there were, and I think, right? I think that we're all basically a carbon copy of each other, man, to a greater or lesser extent. And I always say that, your problems are my problems and my problems are your problems. And it's like if we could just get to that point, right, where we're just, we're just human and we're going to falter and we're going to maybe not always make the best decisions, but we're going to try to keep getting up. And,
Yep.
and what you guys are doing now is you're helping people
Yeah.
to get up. So if you don't mind, Jay, I'm going to ask Linda a little bit about her backstory. But listen, Linda, when she starts talking, bro, you can't get a word
Yeah,
in
just no, yeah,
edgewise.
just no.
So
Listen,
I
I'm
want
Irish.
to.
No getting words in
Oh, I
for sure.
know. Listen, I gotta. Like when the when they came out with the hook and they dragged the person off the stage. You gotta have the hook ready for Linda, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to start with Jay before Linda takes over.
Okay. So yeah, a little bit about me, Jay Baily. I'm a military veteran and a veteran of the fire service. And I mean, you don't end up in this space, right? Talking about mental health and first response by accident. So I deployed a few times over to the Balkans, a couple times, then to Afghanistan in 2003. And during my 18 years in the fire service, there was certainly no shortage of critical incidents.
Right.
And I
Now, were
never
you a firefighter in the military too, Jay?
No, no, I wasn't. I was an MP in the military. I
Okay,
was
okay.
military police.
And you smartened up and you said, "There's no way I'm going to be a cop stateside. I'm going to be a firefighter."
You know what? I loved service. I found
Right,
out in the military, the purpose, what it adds to your soul when you are engaged in selfless service. I fell in love with that. I fell in
right.
love with the concept of brotherhood and sisterhood and camaraderie. I knew that I wanted that.
Yeah,
So
man.
I took a number of tests when I came back, the police and the fire. I guess that's what was meant to be. That's where I ended up. Uh,
Nice.
and I loved it. I loved my career. I still love the culture. And I retired or resigned in September of 2022 as a fire lieutenant.
Wow.
Um, Leading up to that, I began to have symptoms and I was seemingly unaware, right? For a lot of them, like it was such a slow progression into tension, anxiety, depression, and, all these other things that I wasn't able to understand what was causing those changes in my personality. I certainly wasn't able to accept that I was going to have to do something about it to change it. I had always, considered myself like, a hard charger, high speed. I certainly, I wasn't able to recognize my own feelings, let alone discuss them. And that's how it went for a while. And I began coping the way that human beings do. I leaned on the bottle a lot. Eventually one of the challenges that I had was night terrors, nightmares, and I would deal with that by drinking heavily in order to get to sleep.
Oh yeah.
That's where alcohol kind of hit another level for me. Eventually,
Right.
I had to put a
I
plug.
think it's interesting that you say, I like that you point out that it's the slow erosion.
Mm,
It's really sneaky, man.
Oh
You
yeah,
mm,
know, and if it's just one thing, you go, oh shit, it gets your attention and you go, oh, that's a problem. And then
yeah,
like,
yeah,
but when it just becomes like this is the way it is,
yeah, yeah.
it
That's
sneaks up on you, man.
Yeah. Yep. And that's, the interplay with it's something like denial with the personality as that happens. We do it to protect ourselves, but
Yeah.
from a place of healing to look back at how a person, in my case, me, is able to overlook behaviors and attitudes and thoughts that really are leading to my own detriment while I was trying to get well, right? Like my first attempt was I went back to school and I got a couple of degrees. Like my intention was to solve my own problems without ever having to admit to another human being that I was having them, right? I'm like,
Right.
go back, I'll get a degree in psychology, I'll work with veterans and first responders, and I
Still,
won't.
man. Yeah. If
Yeah,
I'm gonna fix them, I'm gonna fix
yeah,
them. Yeah,
right.
man. That's it.
Yeah. And
Oh,
I mean I got the degrees, but it didn't go that way, as anybody that's ever had to set off on a healing journey knows. I had to do the honest work and get authentic about who I was and what I was dealing with. So
right.
along the way, that's what I did. I got some good help. I was very fortunate to have good people that cared about me, have good resources, and able to get connected with them. And slowly but surely, began to get well.
That's awesome, man. Can I ask you, not super personal, but with work, bro, with work, was the firehouse, was that, were they supportive of you, or were they still like in that old school mentality? Because I always like to think, and maybe it's erroneous, that the fire service is ahead of physical, mental health, and wellness more than the police service.
Yeah.
That's what I think in my mind. But what are your thoughts in that regard?
Well, it's a great question, and it's really interesting given like the time frame that I worked in the fire service, because it was a time of great transition to the mindset and the way that we understand and approach mental health. When I came on, it was all old school, and
Sure. Yeah.
it was as well. So I got on in 2004. Now, when I began getting help for myself, I recognized that there were other people that were struggling too.
You think?
Yes, I do. And I was very vocal about the fact, and I think that, well, I know because I've had these discussions with people that, not only was my suffering more evident than I ever realized, right? I went from fun loving, laughing, all these other behaviors that just come out of you naturally when you're living a life of purpose and, other things that kind of live in that emotional zip code. And when I began suffering, that was pretty evident. And so was when I began to heal and recover to a degree. So I've had these conversations with people. I became very vocal around the firehouse about, hey, there's no shame in this.
Right.
And I think that if you consider yourself to be, a leader in the department, which I did, and you have an experience like that, you have to have the courage to speak up to your peers, particularly those that you recognize might be suffering similarly to the way that I was, because
Right.
I needed people to reach out to me and say, "Hey, guess what? I know you're not doing okay,
Right.
and that's okay. And did you
Yeah.
know that there's resources available?" The union was incredibly supportive.
Nice.
The culture was too, right? My coworkers were supportive, and most of them understood and gained further understanding as time went on, and more people felt comfortable talking about it. So it was amazing to see that transition in mindset within my department, and it kind of extended beyond that within the whole community.
Jay, that's awesome. Because right, you're like you're shining the light, brother. You're paving the way.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't live like this anymore, and this is what I'm gonna do about it. And once you do that, man, once you stand up in that room,
Mm,
Yeah.
wow, man, you empower everybody in that firehouse to look at themselves in the mirror and do an assessment, and you made it okay. Um, that's powerful, Jay. That's really, we need more leaders like that. More people that aren't afraid of what everybody's gonna think, right? To
mm.
just stand up and say, "Hey, this is unacceptable. I'm not gonna live like this anymore." And you did something about it, man. That is awesome. I don't know you, brother, but I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, that is not easily done. Not easily done. Um, we got to go to Linda now, bro. You know how that's gonna go. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So I hope you can go ahead and take a nap now, Jay. I got Linda with me
I
now.
have my microphone
Oh
ready.
yeah, you do. So, um, I know a little bit about your story, and it
Yeah.
really, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think your journey and the importance of what you're doing has been defined by Alex.
Yeah. Yeah. We lost, for the listeners, for your listeners. So I just want to share with you. I'll take it back just slightly.
Yeah.
Um, we lost Alex. Alex was a police officer in Abington, the town of Abington at the time. He was 35 years old, married with 3 kids, and he was going through a divorce. He had come home to live with us at the time. We knew he was devastated. over
Hmm.
his family being broken up. They were everything to him. And there was also a lot of turbulence going on within the department at the time.
Sure.
It wasn't very healthy. It was more like what you would call toxic environment, right? I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
So his department was very much so, as far as the administration, not supportive at all, and with supporting the officers if they were struggling, or if they needed support.
Sure.
So we lost Alex to suicide in 2018, October 29th. And when we lost him, I mean, we were lost.
I can't imagine.
Shock. Um, you know, even processing and like what was that all about? I
Right.
mean, we didn't process it. It was just we were on our own, and there was really no support from the department. Very unlike.
You know why there's no support from the
uh,
department?
they don't know what to do.
They don't know.
They don't know.
They
Right.
they they want to pretend it didn't happen, Linda.
Yeah. And I mean, they don't want to also have were they part of the reason why it was too heavy for Alex to handle. So afterwards, I mean, we got through the funeral, all the guys, the patrolmen, Alex's buddies, they all took over to support as far as helping us arrange the funeral and all that type of stuff. And
Sure.
the administration took a very big step back. And so we had lost him, and we were alone. Really no support. I mean, it was basically for, I think, maybe for a year and a half. It was There was no guidance of, here's a phone number for you to reach out if you need to have some grieving therapy.
Sure.
There was nothing offered to us until my husband stumbled across an organization called First Help, and they were Blue Help at the
Blue
time.
Elf.
And
Yeah. First. Yeah.
yep, and they were here, and he reached out to them, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, we were not aware of you. We were aware of Alex's death, but we were not aware of Alex had any siblings or his dad or anything like that." So we sort of got in with First Help, and for the first time we were introduced to who other parents who had
Ooh.
lost a first responder, and made a connection through First Help with these other families. And that was powerful, because now here we had other families connecting with them who got it right. There was no
Yeah.
judgment,
That
because
had to be the beginning of like finding a path. Like
yeah,
you're like lost in the woods. You're like
yeah,
you don't know where to go. And now
yeah, for sure. We were definitely lost. I took on a role at home as the fixer for the family. I own a little cafe here in Weymouth, and I would come to work every day and I would go home, and my husband had a really, really hard time um dealing with processing Alex's loss.
sure.
So he couldn't talk about it. He couldn't for 3 years, couldn't mention his name. So when I would go home, even though we were introduced to First Help, he still could not talk about it. So I would go home, and all of Alex's buddies would come into the cafe and be checking on me very, very regularly. And I would go home and say, Alex's buddy Ryan came in today, and his hand would go right up to me, uh,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I can't do this. And so our grieving was very different because we couldn't talk to each other about it. I couldn't talk to him about it when I went home.
Yeah.
And the kids, like his siblings, I was concerned about them. So I became the fixer as far as wanting to make sure they were okay. I wanted to make sure George was okay. Wanted to make sure that he has 4 siblings at home. So I wanted to make sure they were okay. So I did not let them, once got this hand
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
to me, a couple of times, I'm not going to talk about how I'm feeling at home. I can't, because who's going to listen to me, right?
Mm.
So that was probably very lonely for me. But what I got was, um, I don't want to get emotional. You're making me emotional.
I don't mean to.
No, it's just like, just started going back to that. But what I did
Yeah,
get was something beautiful. I had a lot of first responders come in,
yeah.
cafe. This guy here, one of them.
That was gonna that's gonna be my follow up. How
Yeah,
the heck the U and J
yeah,
come together? Yeah,
yeah.
but
So yeah,
yeah,
Jay was one of them, those first responders coming in, and
okay.
they would be asking me how I was doing, and I think they also felt comfortable, including Jay, you know, sharing with me their own struggles.
Hmm.
And this guy here, I remember him asking me, um, you know, about Alex. He wanted to hear about Alex, and I had told him, that we had nowhere to go and visit Alex, right? Afterwards, after he passed. And that was I felt very sad because of that, because his siblings was no closure, right?
Hmm.
For us, no closure. And this guy, even though he was struggling himself, this is how why I admire him so much and how we became friends, was because he went off. Then I'm going to take it out from underneath my shirt, but he went off. I can show you. You can hear little danglings, people.
Yes.
So he went off and made all of these dog tags. Now, Alex wasn't in the military, right? These are military dog tags, but he made them with Alex's name on them,
Oh
and
wow.
um, and it says "Help Us Heal" on them. And he gave me these dog tags and
Oh
said, "I want
wow.
this." And then um, they made a whole bunch of them, and we had a walk in Braintree, like a first responder walk. It wasn't just necessarily for Alex, but it was walk in Braintree, and they were handing them out to
Oh
everybody
wow.
who were there that day. So that's how we got connected, and we started sharing our own struggles with each other, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so
Look
that's
at
how we got.
Jay. Jay, your stock just went up, bro. You were here, and now, dude, you're off the screen, my friend. Holy smokes! What a touching, beautiful thing to
Yeah.
do.
And he wouldn't even say, the thing is that he wouldn't have even shared that.
No,
So
of
I'm
course not. He's
no,
very he's a very humble man.
he is a very humble man. He does a lot for people that people don't know about, and he wouldn't even share it. So I'm sharing it because
Good.
these are very thoughtful things for me.
Had to make a big difference. Just that gesture.
Yes, absolutely. Someone got it. Someone was listening to me.
Mm,
Someone heard me and wanted to give me some comfort, offered me some comfort, and others some comfort. My family all have one,
right.
and offer our family some comfort in that we can carry a little piece of Alex around with us, and he did that.
That's
So
beautiful.
yeah,
And I think, like, my takeaway is you just something seemingly, it just takes it took him giving a shit. It took him caring.
yeah,
Right. I mean, and that's the role that other people can play. Listen,
yeah,
there's no secret. We know who's struggling in our lives, in the people we come across. It's almost damn near impossible to
yeah,
hide that. Nobody's that good
yeah,
at wearing that mask, right?
yeah.
When you're in that much pain. Um, that's beautiful. So you're the fixer still, though, Linda. You're the fixer still.
I am still the fixer. I mean, I try not to. I've learned through my own journey of healing, that I can't fix everybody. I
No,
can be there from them, and I can be there to help them when they need it, but they also have to be their own fixer. And I have genuinely stepped back from that,
right.
um, in the family unit, of not just, I was just getting worn out. I was trying to run a business. I was
I think they
going back.
call that compassion fatigue or
Oh
something, right?
yeah.
They got a real name for that stuff.
Yeah, well, I was going home. I would have my cry. I would have a little cry going home in the car, and then those tears would get wiped away before I would walk in the door. So I
Yeah,
would not let my family see that part of
no.
me, especially to the first year and a half, for sure. Yeah,
You went, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but just like Jay went and started getting some higher education, and you kind of dove into this space as well, didn't you, Linda? With
yeah, yeah,
trainings and certificates and
yeah,
um just trying to understand, right?
Yes, well, very shortly after Alex passed, I don't know where it came up out of blue in an email or something, and there was a Plymouth County Suicide Coalition were running a mental health first aid class, and it was happening like the next day, and I was like, oh my God, why am I seeing this? Why am I seeing this? This is meant to be. And I called them, and they said, we would love to have you. We know of Alex, and we'd love to have you for the class. And went in and I did a mental health first aid training. Wanted to be more aware. I wanted to be more aware of different signs, and I wanted to be able to help. So right away, I definitely wanted to help people. I didn't know what, but I knew I was being guided some way.
Right.
After that, then I did like a QPR, question, refer, right, ask, training, which is sort of all in mental health also. And then I did psychological first aid, emotional first aid. And then the last big one that we did, I mean, I did, was assist, right? You
Yeah.
did it too, which was applied suicide intervention training skills. And to sort of help someone who might be struggling or in crisis, who would be taking their own lives. So again, just being aware of those signs,
Right.
and using it. And then we also got trained as trainers for, excuse me, for mental health first aid youth. So we could go into police departments or any department or anywhere and
Yeah.
be able to train those folks in how to be able to be aware of mental health first aid in youth. So we're both trainers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of. So there's a tragedy,
Yeah.
and you got an option, right?
Yeah.
You got. I mean, these are both of you.
Yeah.
Both of you have a decision to make on whether you stay in that place
Mm.
or
Yeah.
you try to do something to move out of it for you, for your family, and for people that you don't even know. Um,
Yes. Yeah. I felt different when I was doing something for others, if
mm,
that makes sense. So I felt a lift.
Mm.
I felt a purpose. I felt the difference it was, even the smallest little bit was making on someone else when I did it. So we have first responders come in here all the time. So I'm very unfortunate. I'm in this position where I can interact with first responders every day. Fire, police, EMS, they all come in here. It's a hub for first responders. And so I took advantage of that. I think God led me here all those years ago, not knowing what was going to happen or where my life was going. But I do definitely feel that I'm being guided in this direction, and I'm just following what I'm being guided to do.
Mm.
That led to, first responders talking to me and sharing with me, little bits about their life and how they were struggling. And, you know, this guy here was definitely an inspiration for me. I mean, it all started with Alex, but this guy here was definitely my inspiration to go back to school and to become a life coach like you.
yeah.
I went back to Bridgewater State University and became a life coach for first responders. So I don't use it like out there as like a business, but I do have people come in my
Well,
door.
you have. I mean,
Yeah,
those are all that training and experience. Um, somebody, you know what? Obviously, the both of you, when somebody and goes to talk, they're immediately drawn to you and given this invisible hug of like, it's all good. Like, it's not everybody can pull that off,
Mm.
and what a way, if I can say this, and if I don't think what a way to honor Alex.
yeah. Yeah, I think that if I
Did
don't,
I say it the right? Did I say it the right way?
yes, you did. What a way to honor Alex by doing what we're doing. Basically, that's what you said,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I think one of the things is, with, if I was talking to Jay, right? I'm just using Jay as an example,
yeah,
uh, or talking to other first responders. the one thing that he might have felt, he can answer that question, was that there was no judgment. Like no judgment or no, not feeling shame,
That's
right?
important, right? I don't want, listen, half the reason why I don't talk is because I don't want you to think less of me. I don't
Right.
want you to judge me. And
Well,
so,
that's why a lot of first
yeah,
responders don't speak, all right? Don't
right,
share. But I think our relationship has been sort of developed, our friendship, right, has been developed from that, is that there's never been any judgment. We can just sort of talk about, and I share with him also if I've been struggling or if I'm feeling sad,
right.
um, I know I can share that with him, and there's no judgment, and we can walk each other through certain things. Yeah,
Mm.
That's so powerful and important.
yeah,
Um, so you guys have each other's back, man, and that is
Oh yeah.
that
yeah,
is the absolute best. When you before we had started, you started to talk about the podcast and this and how this relationship kind of has developed
Mhm.
this team,
Yep.
yes.
um, Ma Riley's cafe team first responder. And
Yep.
I'm gonna need a shirt. I'm gonna need a shirt from you, by the way. I'll send you one, but I need one. Okay, so
Oh, you're gonna get one of mine?
we gotta. I need. It's not a get.
Peter
I need it.
Riley?
I
Oh,
gotta.
believe me.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna be sporting it down here in Florida. But so you guys get um you had to talk about, the podcast. Talk to me, because I think we talked about that before I started actually recording, about the podcast and what and how that came to be, because you're really you're reaching out and you're connecting with people, and just to be able to listen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'll let Jay chime in if you want to chime in, but
Oh, Jay,
basically
please,
the
Jay,
first
Jay, can Jay can
I'll
Jay
start him
please
I'll start
chime
him
in?
off. I'll start him off on it.
Holy smokes.
Basically, the thing is, from our own conversations, there was something that was definitely connected. We were both very passionate about. He felt it from me, I felt it from him. We were both very, very passionate about making it easier for first responders to be able to talk about what they're going through without judgment, without fear of losing their job, without being ridiculed, without that stigma. And stigma can be so much more than just a word, right? Because there's so many different variations of stigma, with self-imposed stigma, right? And, fear of being judged stigma. And I had my own stigma. I had my
Yeah.
own stigma I have a picture up in the cafe with Alex, out there out front, and people would come in and say to me, "Do you know that gentleman who's up there who passed away?" And I'd say, "Yeah, he's their son." And I would never share with them that we lost him to suicide.
Mm,
For fear of being judged. You don't know me, right? You don't know me,
mm,
so you're going to judge
yes.
me. Well, how did we not see this? So I would not share with them. And from talking to these guys, these first responders coming in, and I was like, how how am I going to be able to talk to them, or to make it easier for them to talk, if I'm not talking about how we lost Alex?
Mm,
To drop this. So I had to change that mindset. I mean,
yeah.
it wasn't just you need to stop that. It was, I had to start to change it over time, and realize that this was the best way to be able to talk about openly with people who are coming into the cafe.
It didn't happen overnight.
No, it did
No.
not happen
No.
overnight. It started gradually, led into it. The more comfortable I got saying it, right? Because when you're saying it for the first time, I'm looking at people like, well, what's she thinking about me? So,
Right.
um, and especially with people that didn't know me, right?
Right.
But that's how it sort of dropped with that. Jay, do you want to chime in? Like, I mean, where we're going?
Yeah, yeah, just that whole time period and how it developed. Like when Linda talks about these attributes that are sort of a necessary ingredient for the type of good listener that's actually going to be able to help a first responder, like not authentically not judging somebody, right? You can't teach that, and she
No.
absolutely has that gift. I began coming in during some of my most challenging times, right? And she was able to listen to me in that manner. part of my journey. And, how we got here is, that same thing that was touched upon earlier, like the emotional experience that one has when they help another.
Mm.
Uh, and I've been called to service before, and I've never felt such a strong call or like the universal guidance in this direction. A lot of people, good friends and coworkers, when I first said, no, I'm changing courses entirely, I'm going to grad school, I'm committing to this full time, and I'm sure, right? They were like, whoa, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I never questioned. I knew that it was the right move for me. I've never been part of a process that felt this rewarding, this purposeful.
Yeah.
And as all of these different developments are happening in my world, in my soul, Linda says, "Hey, dude, you want to do a podcast?"
Please tell me you didn't, your response wasn't, what's a podcast?
No, I said absolutely.
You knew it. See,
I'm
somebody had
in.
to know what the hell a
Man.
podcast was.
Um,
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what a great team. What a great
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. We're getting it together, we're sort of being guided. We go with the flow. And it's not like we sit here every day and say, well, what's next? What's next? Things just sort of seem to flow and flat happen into our existence, right?
Mhm.
With what's happening next. And when it feels right, we just go with it, and
Sure.
things just happen. Things are just happening. So we're very blessed to definitely have the podcast, and it has been a healing journey for me. Every interview. And I'm nervous, and I've said it to Jay many, many times before, when we were doing it, your sort of ego comes into play, right? As far as not ego meaning, oh,
She's
I'm
talking to me when she says that.
no,
Ah,
no, I'm not talking about ego like all that. That's not the way I am, but sort of self-doubt ego, right? Where
yeah.
your head's talking
Yep.
to you.
Not the ego, like egotistical in the sense,
No,
but the
yeah.
opposite of that.
The opposite of that, right? So, that would start to come into play every now and again. And because I would be hearing, in some interviews where, there was someone who was after getting into this field, and they talk about, a first responder, right? How hard it is to sort of be able to get into that field, or this space when you're not a first responder, right? Because you don't get it, right? And here I am, not a first responder. So I would say to Jay, I have no business being in this space.
Ah.
And I was like, Jay, and he'd say, Linda, what would you say?
I would tell you that you were more appropriately placed. What I say?
What did you say?
I told you that you absolutely belonged here,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
that you
that's what he said.
and
That's
that
what
you
he
had
said.
a purpose, and that you were going to make an incredible difference in a lot of people's lives.
100%.
So
And
that's what he
that's
said.
the genuineness. They call that imposter syndrome. Like you don't think that you have the right to be where you're at.
Yeah.
That somehow there's somebody else that you need permission from somebody to, and
Well, yes.
you give
Yes.
yourself permission,
Yes.
and you're
I
doing
did
some
feel that.
amazing things. Yeah.
I did feel that. And just because what I would hear, like, first responders don't trust people, that they don't get it. How can you have a conversation with them? And when he would say that to me, you absolutely belong here. I would say, you know what? I'm just going to go with my heart and what I'm feeling, and hopefully that message will come out and other people will hear it.
Yeah.
So and that's what I just had to believe in, you know.
I love it. No, it makes yeah, I'll echo Jay's sentiments exactly. This is exactly where you belong.
Oh, thank
This is
you.
exactly where you belong.
Thank you.
And so let's talk about where we're at right now.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
got some things going on right now,
we have
don't we?
lots of things. Look, I'm after perking up in my chair.
Yes.
I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm ready for it. I'm
Let's
ready to
go.
rock and roll
Let's
here.
talk about what we got going on now, because
Yeah.
you guys, you're not sitting back on this.
No.
Oh,
No, we're not. You want to talk about the blankets?
Yeah. So, well, I think that you should, given how the blanket
Came
sort
about.
of came about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
All right, I'll give a quick sort of overview on that one. But basically, we started off doing these blankets, making blankets, just recently.
No, when you mean making blankets, I
Mhm.
got a bit. Is Jay in the back room with a needle and thread doing the?
No, no,
Not,
I'm
not
no,
quite.
no. He
Jay's
does
not doing macrame or any
no.
of that.
He's not doing any of
Oh,
that stuff. So
right.
basically, the first year we lost Alex, I was
Mhm.
inviting some of his buddies over to our home, to sort of keep Alex's memory alive, right? I want him to keep on saying his name in the department, even though, the new people were coming in. I wanted
Sure.
him to be still mentioned in that department and not be forgotten. So I was inviting some of his buddies, his very close friends, who were also really struggling with his
I
loss.
imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wanted them to come over to our home and have some food and drinks and remember him. And I didn't only want it to be just that food and drink and say happy birthday, Alex, or whatever it might be, but I got this sort of blanket kit and it was a no-sew kit. That you can cut these sort of strings and tie them in a knot, and it would be a big blanket. And I said we could all do this together to start some healing together. And it was also
Where'd you
for
get that idea, Linda? That sounds really interesting.
it was just when Alex passed, someone had given me a blanket,
Oh
a
wow.
comfort blanket, and it really meant a lot to me.
Wow.
And
Okay.
and I said, well, wow, I would really like to do that with these guys, and we
Sure.
could all do it together. And the intentions was we were going to make just a couple of those blankets that night, and we were going to give them to them to take home, and whoever they felt that might need one, who might be struggling with some challenges, mental health challenges, some emotional challenges,
Yeah.
wherever it might be, that they could feel free to pass it on to somebody who might need it.
Hmm.
And that was sort of a good feeling for me, and for also for Alex's siblings. It was sort of I wanted them to really really tie in with that, and COVID hit. And it was 2 days. Alex's birthday was March 14th, and the
You should
country.
have started making masks.
I know. March 16th, the country shut down. So don't you be laughing at him and
That was
encouraging him,
funny.
right? All these funny jokes. So anyway, it shut down, and I still had the couple of kits in my house, and in that time I had met Jay and I'd met other first responders, right? And the kits were still there. The thought never left me
Mm,
of doing this type of a project.
right.
And so over time, we came up with Hope Beyond the Badge, right? That was a name that we thought Hope Beyond the Badge. We started the AGK, the Alex G. Kokoros Memorial Fund, and then all of a sudden, the blanket had a name. So they're called the Hope Comfort Blankets, and Hope, 4 letters in Hope. H is healing within. O is optimistic for the future. P is the power of positive self talking. And then E is embracing where you are now. And for a first responder who would be receiving that's all those words put together, right, is basically starting on a journey, right? Healing from within, right? That's where you need to start.
Need hope. You need
And
hope.
you need hope.
Yeah.
And the E, embracing where you are now. A first responder is not healing from where you were before because you're no longer the same. But you
Right.
can heal from where you are now, right?
Right.
Embracing where you are now and start that healing journey and move on. So the blankets had a name and they were called the Hope Comfort Blankets. So when we launched the AGK Memorial Fund, we had again it was Alex's birthday. And we had all those officers over to the house and the plan worked out. COVID was gone. We had everyone all over. We had Jay over, and we invited some prominent people in the first responder community. We invited some police chiefs. We invited the mayor of the town. We invited some fire chiefs. We invited, and the house was full with all first responders who we wanted to share this with and support us with this. So we launched it that night and told them this is what we want to do. We want to start raising funds into the AGK Memorial Fund and start gathering money so that we can start buying the materials to make these blankets. And these blankets are a no-sew blanket. So it means that we would buy these kits or fabrics from the AGK fund, and then the plan is to reach out to the community and have the community help us make them. And so that's what we've done. You want to take it from there, Jay?
Yeah, so that's what we've done, and we've had incredible success. We're really grateful for the way that the community came together, the amount of volunteers that have
Yeah.
taken part, just been overwhelming. We've had two of them so far. The third one's coming up. These events are evenings filled with laughter and joy and community, and people really coming together to do something good, and you can feel that
Yeah.
in the room for sure.
Do we have
That's
first
awesome.
families participating as well?
We do have first responder families participating as well. Yes, we do.
Yeah.
The support has been incredible.
Yeah. So what they do, what those blankets are doing is we're not just handing them out to, a first responder who you might feel is struggling. So we wanted to reach out to an organization who help first responders.
Mhm.
That, they have a residential program, right, there where a first responder can go to seek help. And why not start in Massachusetts? So
Why
we
not?
reached out, so we reached out to an organization called Onsite Academy, and they are an organization, nonprofit, who are it's basically run by first responders for first responders. Dr. Hayden Duggan is the founder of Onsite, and Jay can sort of talk a little bit about that. But they go there and they get help. So anybody who is going there for a 5-day residential program will receive one of those blankets upon
Oh,
arrival.
wow.
And they do groups, right? They run group and support groups while they're there. And so when they receive that, they can use the blanket while they're there. They're already making a connection with the blanket, and they also can take it home with them. So now they're going through a wonderful experience of starting a healing journey on site. And that blanket is part of that healing journey for them.
Yeah.
And then they take it home, so they're now inspired to continue on that healing journey.
Yeah.
Jay, do you want to
Well,
share a little bit about Onsite?
Yeah, I was so honored to find out that Onsite was going to be, receiving these blankets. They are, in my opinion, the premier trauma treatment and training facility for first responders in this state. They have culturally competent staff. Many of the staff members are retired first responders who went back and became clinicians. And then you have, Dr. Duggan, who's, has a history of first response himself in the fire service and the EMS world. Um, and they engage in a number of different treatment modalities that are tailored to the traumatic experiences of first responders. They have like something, I believe, over a 90% return to duty rate, right? They
isn't
really,
that great?
really
Yeah.
know what
Amazing.
they're doing.
They really they figured out a formula
Mhm.
that works for the first responder.
Yes.
That's right.
Dedicated people.
Very
Yeah.
dedicated.
That
So
is
we're
awesome.
honored. Yeah, we're honored. We're totally honored and
What a
privileged.
great partnership.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we just so we make blankets for a month supply each time we do it. So we did it in January, was our first time.
Yeah.
We didn't want to start this, like my family also, we didn't want to start this project unless we could sustain it. We could do it forever, right? So until we had enough money in the AGK Memorial Fund, we didn't want to start it. And January was a perfect time. So we did our first batch. We did enough blankets for a month. Literally had a whole, like, it was like a factory going on. Everyone was making the blankets. I was ironing on the Hope label on the blanket. There was someone else folding the blankets, and then someone else putting them in the tote bag that they're going in. And then we also have a very special card that goes in there that talks about Alex, and a little poem on there, and that their families need them, and all about hope, and then where hope came from. So they receive all of that, and they get to take it home with them. So we're
That's
very,
beautiful.
yeah, and we'll continue to
You
service.
got now. Is this another event coming up on Saturday that is different?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. So we do the monthly blankets, that's
Okay.
in January, and every month we will be doing another blanket making night where volunteers call us and email us, and we put it out there. We put flyers out there. We send
Right.
them out to all the fire departments and everything, and they volunteer to come. And we at least always have at least 50 volunteers every time, right?
Yep.
and we make about 30 blankets for the month, and they go, and we deliver them up to on site the next day.
Wow.
And so that's the blankets. And then we talked about the podcast, and then that has now evolved into the family readiness workshop. Be ready, right? Jay, do you want to
Oh.
talk about that? Because I can talk, right? Don, you know I can talk. So we let Jay have a little bit of work.
Listen,
So the family readiness workshop, the idea is that you know, we talked at the beginning of this podcast about how much we learn from hosting podcasts and listening to the experience
yeah,
of other people, right? Other first responders and family members. And we kept hearing an experience that, you know, Linda could really relate with from that perspective of a family member. And that they weren't necessarily aware of not just the resources, but some of the struggles that their family members or loved ones were facing. And you know, then from my perspective, my own experience, and you know, people that I know, you know, oftentimes first responders, we wait. It's the same part of our personality that makes us good at our job, causes us to wait until we're in crisis oftentimes before we begin seeking help, or maybe even acknowledging that we need it. You know, and we want to have an impact on that stigma, and that's why we do this podcast. That's why we talk about it. And the goal of this event is to connect first responders, family members directly to the resources that are available to help them. So we've been incredibly fortunate to have been able to gather the absolute best of the best in the business of
Yes.
first responder mental health together for what we're calling a first responder family readiness workshop. And what they're going to do is they're going to get up. They're each going to, you know, give a presentation,
yep,
some representing these different organizations that are dedicated to first responder mental health. And they'll present their organization, talk about what they do there. The families and the first responders themselves will have the opportunity to hear about that. And they'll get a packet that has a printout so they know how to get in touch with each one of these organizations when and if that time comes. And it's not like, you know, the if has an asterisk next to it, because the truth is,
It's
even if
when.
you're, it is when we
Yeah.
know
When.
that. And
mhm,
even if you manage to, you know, have a career and not need help yourself, it's going to be in your zip code. You're going to
mhm,
have a coworker, somebody that you care about,
sure,
that, you know, it would be to your benefit, their benefit, the betterment of the department and the community that you serve, if
Hey,
you are know where the resources are and how to connect them.
you're allowing them to be proactive.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Be prepared, right? So be
Be
ready.
proactive. Be
Yes.
proactive. Take an aggressive, proactive approach to
Yep.
everyone's mental health and wellness.
Yes,
right.
absolutely. Bring it out in the open. And I think that, again, that goes back to a lot of first responders do not talk when they go home,
Mhm.
right? About
Right.
what they're after seeing every day. They push it down in the backpack. The spouse knows about what's going on because she sees it in the form of behaviors
Mhm.
changing.
Sure.
The alcohol, the isolating away from the family, not attending the sports games, all of those type of things, being irritable all the time. Is it just me? Why is he cranky with me all the time when he comes home? But they don't realize what the first responders have to see every day and doesn't want to share it. So he also is not sharing, or he, I'm just using he as a phrase, but he or she
Yeah.
is not sharing that there is resources available out there. They're just not, again, with the stigma, they're just not seeking it,
Right.
fear
Right.
of being judged, right? So the whole thought behind it is that the families are part of that career, whether they want to be or not. They are part of it. And if a family, a spouse, is prepared, and knows about all these resources, and is has access to it and is aware of it all, instead of being in a situation like Jay said, in a crisis situation, and she's saying, you need to talk to someone, but I don't know who to call. Who do I call? We need to get you help. Instead of that, after the workshop, they're going to be more educated, more aware,
Right.
and they're going to also leave with a folder. So every family that attends will leave with a big folder with all those organizations in it. So when, I'm saying when, not if, but when a time comes when they do need it, they're going to be able to open up, and she's going to say, I know who to call for help. And they're going to be able to guide me in some form of way to help get you help and resources to make it better. And when a first responder is struggling, a family is struggling too. When a first responder is healing, family can start healing too. And that's where we
100%.
want to go with that. And that's why we're doing that.
And
So
is that this Saturday?
that is this Saturday, March
So
9th.
March 9th. So
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to do.
Mm.
I normally release my podcasts on Monday.
Mm.
Monday's too late.
Yeah.
I'm going to release, I'm going to put this out before the end of the week.
Oh, perfect.
So we can get more awareness
people
to
awareness,
this event.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
this is important. This is
It is
important.
important.
I've
And
got, look, I got notes. I got
Loads of
notes. I got a whole
And-
sheet of notes here.
John, can I
Um,
just chime in and just start to say one thing about that also? Is
Please.
that when we started off talking about this, families, oh my God, families kept on coming into play and the conversation all the time, and it wouldn't leave us. It was just families. Oh, like, what can we do to support these families? What can we do to make them aware? And so the whole thing was that we were started off with, like, just inviting two people from CISM teams, two police officers who were coordinators from the CISM teams.
Yeah.
And we were having them come in and talk to families in a smaller scale. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how it happened.
I don't either. It
Literally,
just
I don't
worked.
know.
You know, were you guys giving away food? Were you having?
I don't know
What the heck happened?
But we all of a
don't know.
sudden, we made some calls, and every organization, we did not have to chase them down. We did not have to email a second time. We did not have to make a call a second time. Everyone who we emailed and called got back to us right away and said, wow, we want to be a part of this.
That's
This
awesome.
is missing. This is missing. This part of it is missing, and it's needed.
Yep. And
What
I
a-
think
God
that
bless.
speaks to, you know, when Linda was talking about having those thoughts of, do I belong in this space? I hesitated because I wasn't sure if I was going to include part of my answer, but I am now. And that's her perspective, that of a first responder, suicide loss survivor family member,
Mm.
are represented in this space, and we're all to benefit by her being involved.
Oh.
And you see it in this event, right? Like, she saw something a little bit differently than
Right.
us who did the job was gonna, and you see it come through in the ideas that she has.
Amazing
We're all very
perspective.
fortunate.
Yeah, no, amazing perspective.
He wants
This
a
is-
cookie or something before you leave.
What do you got? You make
Whatever he's looking for.
homemade apple pies up there or
Yeah.
something. What's his angle? What's his angle, Linda?
It's a cookie.
No, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Hey, before we wrap, guys,
Yeah.
I always ask the folks I interview to leave us with something, a thought, something that you want to share from the heart. And then I want you to help me put out all the information, and I want to put all the information in the show notes so people can, if they're not, you know, have an availability while they're listening to write this stuff down. I want to put all the information on the Memorial Fund,
Mm-hmm.
the Readiness Workshop, everything you guys got going on. I want to include that in the show notes. But before we get there, if you guys could share, Jay, and then Linda, maybe just some parting thoughts and words for our listeners.
My parting thoughts or words would be that if you are out there caught in struggle or suffering now, please reach out for help. And I would suggest that if you do that, you will end up feeling the sensation of strength, and for sure, recovery is possible from mental and emotional wounds.
Beautiful. Yeah, man.
Well, I don't know how to follow that, but I would
Listen, you'll find a way. Listen, you're something.
I would say that you're not alone.
Mm.
I think that as a family member, like if there's families listening in here, your family is not alone. There's lots and lots of first responders who are struggling. Um, just reach out to get help. Um, whether it be a friend, whether it be a coworker, whether it be another first responder family, reach out. There's no shame.
Mm.
You have to let go of that shame and reach out. You will be better for it. Your family will be better for it. Your first responder will be better for it, and you will all be able to heal together. And if you don't know how to reach out to one of us, myself or Jay, and we can, or John, right,
Yeah.
and we can guide you to get resources to be able to help you, for sure.
No, no judging on this side of the table either.
No judging on the side.
No,
No
no.
judging.
So before we wrap, guys,
Yep.
give me some links and .coms and orgs and dates and
Yep.
times and locations. So the Hope Beyond the Badge podcast, we got
Yes.
that.
Yep.
AGK Memorial Fund, is there a website or a link that I can put out there so people can donate?
There is, well, we don't have a website for it yet because we're just small, right?
Yeah.
We do, people can donate, and we're sort of just doing it through Venmo. We're into the AGK Memorial Fund right now, until we sort of get something a little bit more
All
structured.
right. So I'm not that quick on the uptake. If I put AGK Memorial Fund in Venmo, that'll come up.
Yes, or if you say Alex G. Kokoros Memorial Fund, yeah.
And that's a good way for us to donate too.
Yes, people can
Okay.
donate. Yeah, we just
Okay.
received a donate yesterday, yeah, from Florida somewhere.
Wonderful.
Can
And
they do that through the Facebook page too?
Do we have a Venmo link on the Facebook page? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay.
Yeah.
all right, so use Venmo to donate. And talk to me about the Family Readiness Workshop this Saturday, March 9th. Where is it being held, guys?
It's at Sacred Heart Church in South Weymouth. So it's 726 Washington Street in Weymouth, Mass. And it's starting at 6 p.m.
Okay.
and it'll be going on till probably 8, maybe 8:30. We'll see how people are time scheduled, but we plan on having it done by 8 o'clock. We want to be respectful of people's time. And so yeah, and there's plenty of parking. We'll have refreshments there. There's just some great speakers. I mean, we're honored to have the cream of the crop in mental health and first response in Massachusetts be here all together in one room. So first responders out there listening and families listening, take advantage of that. And also, John, equally as important is that first responder who is not struggling and they're like, well, I don't need that. I'm not having a hard time. It's equally as important for them to be there
Of
as
course.
is a first responder who is struggling, because they're going to learn something. The families are going to learn something, and they can also learn how to be able to maybe approach a conversation.
Be part of somebody else's solution.
Yes,
man.
yes. Yeah.
I love.
Sure.
Listen. So I'm coming to I'm coming up to Boston in September.
Oh,
All right. So
yeah.
my sister's getting married. And so I am making a stop in Weymouth
Maybe we'll have to have you make a blanket.
to Ma Riley's Cafe. Yes.
Oh, yeah. He's just looking for a cookie too.
Cookie, apple pie. I mentioned apple pie a couple times. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
taking
we
a
could,
hint.
you
Yeah,
know,
make a good apple pie.
how I am at dropping hints.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be up there in that area. My sister's in Rentham, right? Rentham's not too far from
Oh,
Weymouth.
no, it's about 35 minutes away.
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
where-
no, perfect. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have
Thank you,
really, this connection has really, we come across a lot of different people in our daily lives, right?
Yeah.
And the both of you are people that love and add value, and my life is better and enriched for knowing you and for spending this time together. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for doing what you're doing. You're changing lives, you're impacting lives, and I think you're doing God's work. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, John. I mean, same for you. We love what you're doing. We both finished the interview with you and we're like, really like this guy.
Yeah.
Really
Yep.
like this guy. That I went out and bought your book, by the way.
Oh
So
my goodness.
doesn't know that, you definitely have to get that on the podcast because it's surviving self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah.
This
There
book
you
right
go.
there,
Oh,
right?
wow.
We got it.
That's
And
awesome.
we have
That's
it.
awesome.
And
You guys are the best.
waiting to get tucked into that. So we need to make sure we all get that out there and get it.
I love it. You guys are the best. And I hope to see you in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man. Thank you so much,
Thank
John.
you so much for having us, John.
And that